The next thing that we're going to talk about is transitioning to a secondary weapon that may have a weapon mounted light on it, but it's not working, or it's your CCW gun and you don't have a light on it, but your primary does. And that's the next thing that we're going to talk about is how do we negotiate this particular transition? Let's first talk about how my primary is set up. Now, I used to run more of a button method, just a push button. And the reason being is because most of the pressure pads that were out on the market just didn't work well. However, the ones now that Surefire have been producing, they're really good. And the reason why I preface this is because you need to make sure that when you're setting your gun up, you're not just setting it up for what your right hand and or left hand are doing. You want to make sure that if you switch the gun from one shoulder to another, you can still activate your light. And in this particular drill, what's important because your hand's going to sometimes be in a little bit different position. So let's talk about what position it's going to be in. It's important to note, just as a reminder, that your handgun, either the weapon light is broke and or you don't have one on it. So what we're doing is we're robbing the light from our primary to allow us to do a transition and still see what it is that we were engaging when our primary failed us, and then of course engage with our secondary. So that's the overall goal of what we're trying to accomplish. I'm utilizing this light to help me here continue to solve that particular problem that I have an issue with. Now, a couple things. These techniques that I'm about to show you weren't designed by me. These were designed by Dave Maynard and Ken Good of the Surefire Institute. They started this. And what's amazing to me is still today, when we look at techniques over a period of time, generally the way we shoot, the way we hold the gun, the way we reload the gun, those things generally will change to a certain degree. However, these low light, no light techniques have been steadfast and true for a lot of years. And I would highly advocate, I don't even care if you run nods most of the time, you still need to know how to fight and operate with white light. So let's break down the two techniques. The first technique is just simply taking the gun and moving it from your right shoulder to your left shoulder or opposite if you're southpaw. I can still function the white light here, draw my secondary, and do an engagement. The hard part about this particular technique is that when you have this thing out here extended, and this is a short barrel, so when you add in 16 inches or a suppressor, 14.5, lasers and everything else, this gun gets heavy. And we're talking about holding on to a lot of real estate out here. So for me, this isn't my go-to one. Can I do it? Do I practice it? I do. You also have to have very good recoil management because if you're rocking, especially a 45, the last thing you want to do is ride recoil into your gun. So you have to be very particular about this particular technique. Nevertheless, I still practice it, but the next technique is the one that I like a lot better. So as guns start getting scopes, they start getting a little bit longer barrel, you start running suppressors. This, for me, is more of a perfect fit. The way the technique works, unlike the shoulder switch, is that we're placing the gun in between the armpit and the rib cage. So it looks like this. Gun comes off the shoulder, it moves, and then I utilize these three fingers right here, which are still making contact with the grip, and I help drive it into about this position right here. Once I know my arm can collapse over the gun and I can manage the weight, that's when I'm going to immediately draw and come up on target. And of course, I can still activate my light via my thumb pad right here. This particular technique allows me to hold more weight and keep the gun steady and in place a lot longer. So again, another option for you.